Hello, it's John Sheik here, the founder of UniTasterDays, and it's my job to introduce the event today and our speaker. So today we're going to be looking at university courses in veterinary medicine, and I'm delighted to be joined by Chris Hobson, the head of student recruitment at the Royal Veterinary College in London. Chris is going to look at things like why you might be interested in the course, what to expect on it, application tips and careers. And with that, I'll pass things over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you to everyone who's watching this. As mentioned, my name is Chris Hobson. It's a pleasure to speak with you today. Just to give you a bit of context as to whom I am, I've had the pleasure of working for the Royal Veterinary College for the last 13.5 years, so have over a decade's experience of supporting a student's journey from initial point of interest right the way through to applications, interviews, and right up till graduation. So hopefully I come from a good point of experience to share some tips and tricks about sort of applications and give you a realistic insight to the veterinary program. So as John mentioned, we've sort of designed this talk to focus on 4 particular areas. You'll probably see as we go through the session that they start to interlink to one another, but generally want to give you a bit of an insight into the veterinary programs and why you might consider it as a study destination at university. Then look at sort of the application side of things, pointing out where students might not spend as much attention as they do to other areas, and as such not be the strongest candidate that they can be. And then very briefly touch on sort of some of the options post graduation. So why consider veterinary medicine? I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably have an inkling of an interest with regards to working with animals, which is obviously a very good place to start. Veterinary medicine is definitely a vocation. So it is about following that passion to want to make a difference in animals' lives. But you've also got to remember that you will be helping, and it will be very rewarding helping humans as well, because most animals come with an owner or as part of a family. So it can be extremely rewarding, both degree and also profession. However, with those animals who unfortunately can't save, there's the other side of the coin to be aware of as well. It is a challenging profession because of the stakes involved, as well as the varied nature of the both degree and the profession. But if you're someone who likes to problem solve and likes to step up to challenges, no one day is necessarily the same. And with regards to your training, we're preparing you for the profession. So yes, there is a high amount of academic content. However, we also integrate that into practical experience. So it's the best of both worlds in terms of a degree program. It's not all in lectures, it's not all practical. There's a nice mixture there. With regards to sort of career options, at the moment, there's currently a shortage of qualified vets. So as much as you can predict 5, 6 years in the future, you know, it's likely that there's going to be jobs available to yourself. So I've used the term veterinary medicine quite a lot. You might be more familiar with it being termed veterinary sciences. We all call our veterinary program something slightly different. But if you are applying through UCAS and there's a D100 prefix in terms of the course code, then you're applying to a degree course, which is going to qualify you to be a veterinary surgeon at the end of that 5 or 6 year program. I'm listed all of the veterinary schools at the minute. So there are currently 10 of us. The eagle-eyed amongst you might well notice that the 2 newest schools, so we have a partnership with Aberystwyth, and as do Harper Adams and Keele University. They are currently not accredited. That's nothing against those 2 programs. It's purely because you cannot accredit a veterinary medicine or dentistry course in the UK until you have a graduating cohort, because it's at that time that the RCVS, the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, can go in and basically audit the institution and the curriculum to make sure that that those institutions are preparing students to join the profession. But a very brief introduction there. 10 schools, more than ever before. Majority of degree programs are 5 years, with the exception of Cambridge, which is 6 years in duration because they have what's called a forced intercalation. So you pause your veterinary studies typically after year 2, do a year of a science discipline, get a BA in that science, and then have 3 years for the home straight of your veterinary qualification and graduate as a vet. So with there being 10 universities offering 10 different programs, it's hard to guarantee and let you know what a typical course might look like specifically, but I'm going to give you some sort of broad brush strokes to give you a bit of an insight as to what you might well be expecting. Generally speaking, all veterinary schools will focus initially on sort of the healthy animal. And when I say the healthy animal, I should indeed say the healthy animals, because it's a very varied both profession as well as degree program. We're focusing primarily on the commonly encountered species in the UK, which are companion animals, so cats, dogs, hamsters, etc., as well as large companion animals like horses and camelids, and also then production animals, so cows, pigs, sheep, for example. So typically your first year, your first couple of years are focusing on learning about all of those species, companion animals and production animals, when they are healthy. So universities might approach that in slightly different ways. So sometimes you were taught about the particular animals themselves. So you learn about cats, then dogs, so on and so forth. Whereas others might do it more comparatively. So you might be learning about sort of body systems and compare the body system of a dog with a cat, with a cow, so on and so forth. So you're going to see a real range of animals within the program. So linking back to the objective of why consider veterinary medicine, hopefully it's the case that you love all creatures, great and small, if you'll excuse the description there. After you've mastered the healthy animal, then you'll move on to sort of the paraclinical side of things, which is the unhealthy animal. So moving more to a pathology side of things, working out why animals are sick or have passed away. And then what we do typically as veterinary schools is embed you within clinics and hospitals, whether they be the university's facilities or partner facilities or hospitals around the UK and potentially further afield, to train you how to restore, hopefully, the unhealthy animal back to the healthy animal. Now, that seems extremely logical, which it is. Healthy, unhealthy, treat the unhealthy to get back to the healthy animal, hopefully. But we do dovetail this slightly. And when we're talking about the healthy animal, sometimes it makes sense to say, well, you're learning about this because when it is unhealthy, these changes might well be being seen in this particular instance. So it's not quite as clear-cut as I might have made out just then. Also, we want to make sure that you are prepared when you're going into those clinical aspects of the program. So that's not to say you wouldn't necessarily have clinical teaching earlier on in the program, but the clinical involvement will probably be more focused on sort of simulated environments, so practicing clinical skills such as suturing on synthetic skin, bandaging, sort of amended teddy bears, for want of a better description, so that you're competent when you go in as a veterinary student. It is a very intense course as well, not just the case that it's either 5 or 6 years in duration, but typically a large portion of your vacation periods every year are taken up by animal handling placements, which again, why I mentioned about following your passion. It won't feel like a chore if you are passionate about helping animals, because spending some of your, in inverted commas, vacation time or free time working with animals will be obviously of interest to yourself. So currently the placements are under review because of COVID, but typically you're looking at 12 weeks of animal handling in the first 2 years, so to mirror the healthy animal focus. And then the last 3 years, a minimum of 26 weeks of hospital or clinical placements to mirror the final 3 years of most veterinary degree programs, where you're learning about the unhealthy animal and then practicing under supervision in practices and hospitals around the UK. Now, some of you might be interested in a particular species. What I would say at this point is try and keep an open mind. It's absolutely fine if you prefer horses or prefer exotic animals or whatever else it might be, but try not to shut yourself off to other experiences, both in terms of when you're looking for work experience, but also when you get onto the veterinary degree program, because students change their mind, and it's absolutely fine to do that, both within the course and within the profession as well. So whilst you might go off to be an equine veterinarian straight out of vet school, you might then choose 5, 10 years, however long later, to go, actually, I'd like to try some small companion animals now. So there is that opportunity to move around the profession, which is why we train you on the commonly encountered species, to make sure you have that breadth of experience. So to try and give sort of a visual representation of how a program might look, this is how we currently teach. So as I say, to start with the foundation skills, the healthy animal with perhaps a slight focus on clinical aspects, but that clinical exposure really starts to increase in year 3 until the final 2 years of the program are essentially just working in practices and hospital to get that experience, so that when you graduate, you are competent to go into the profession as a veterinary surgeon. So in terms of application tips, and this current slide is not a guarantee of the number of people that we would make either offers to and or anything else. It's just to give you an idea, because what we tend to find is there are quite a lot of rumours and myths out there. I would say typically veterinary schools will be getting somewhere in the region of 7 to 10 applicants to every 1 physical place, but that does vary every year. So it is a competitive field, but if you have that passion, if you have that desire, don't let that put you off applying to any particular school or indeed any particular course. And what I just want to highlight is most schools, well, in fact, all schools will make more offers than they have places. So as you can see from ourselves at the RVC, we make around about double the amount of offers as we have physical places, because some students will choose to go to another institution because it's a better fit for them, whereas unfortunately some students won't meet the grade requirements that is a condition of their offer. So as such, you might see that ratio of applicants to physical places might go down to something like 4 or 5 applicants receiving an offer, which isn't as bad as that initial statistic. So if you have the passion, if you have the desire, don't be put off by some of the myths and the rumours which are out there. I mentioned about the best fit. I would strongly encourage you to do your research by watching and engaging with resources like this, so that you can gain an insight, but also going to all of those 10 veterinary schools which I highlighted, requesting prospectuses, going on the website, virtual or visiting opportunities as and when they're safe to go to, so that by the time you make your application, you know which 4 veterinary schools you are going to apply to. And that links to the UCAS form, in that you do have 5 choices, but only 4 of them can be veterinary choices, with the 5th the potential to be sort of a safety net or insurance choice, so that if you don't get into veterinary school, you have a fallback of, let's say, a zoology degree program or biological sciences or something of that particular nature. I'm sure you're probably all aware that for veterinary medicine, their deadline is the 15th of October every year. There are also some gateway programs, so they're sort of foundation years, so a 6-year route to veterinary medicine, which have some typically non-academic entry requirements as well as academic entry requirements. They all vary by school, and some of them have an October the 15th deadline, or some of them have a January deadline, which for this academic year is the 26th of January. So I'm not going to go through all of these entry requirements, and every school, as I mentioned, is slightly different. But typically for all vet schools, what you'll be looking at is good achievement in your GCSEs. So we would categorize that as 5 GCSEs at grade 7, including combined sciences, or if you've done biology and chemistry separately, you have been awarded a grade 7 in those, and no less than a grade 6 in English language and mathematics. With regards to your level 3 qualifications, so A levels, level 3 extended diplomas, IBs, etc., we're looking for biology and chemistry as well as high achievement in another subject typically, and that's fairly common across all vet schools. Some might have a preference towards a third science. So if you're not doing 3 traditional sciences, then please ask each individual school whether that will be have a detrimental effect on any application. It wouldn't with regards to ourselves, as long as you have biology and chemistry. Now, the reason that all veterinary schools will ask for some form of experience, and I realise the last 2 years might be the exception to that particular rule, is because of the nature of the curriculum. I've said that it's 5 years, it's an intense degree programme. We want you to be making an informed decision as to whether it is the right course for yourself. So by experiencing clinical work experience, so going to your local vets and getting hopefully a week or a couple of weeks in there will show you what it's really like, because what you see on all the various TV programs, all of which I think are great on television, it's designed and edited for our entertainment. So you might not see everything that you would see when you're in an actual clinic. You definitely wouldn't see all the sights that you see in a clinic. You wouldn't smell all the smells, so on and so forth. So it's a really good opportunity for you to give it a trial before committing to a 5 or 6 year degree program. So it's very worthwhile for that. We also like you to have sort of animal handling experience. So we would ask for 70 hours, which we'd say is 2 weeks of experience in an animal handling environment. So that could be cattery, kennel, stables, farm, anything like that. So again, we're wanting you to make sure you know the professions which are associated with the veterinary world. So servicing the animals on any one of those particular facilities would be most likely part of the job when you graduate. It's always good to get references for 2 reasons. One, it's a requirement of the application typically, so to validate the experience that you said you have completed. But also you're starting to build your business contacts even when you might be 15, 16. I realise you won't all necessarily be that age, but if you have a portfolio with all of these references in, then it gives you contacts to then go back to when hopefully you're in veterinary school and say, hi, do you remember me? I came to do work experience with you. You gave me a lovely reference, helped me get into vet school. Now, because I'm in my first 2 years, I've got to do some animal handling experience. I wonder whether I could come back to your farm, your cattery, whatever it is. And subsequently, if you're going back to do some clinical placement in your final 3 years, then subsequently you might want to get a job in the aforementioned practice. I know students who have done work experience pre-application, gone back there as part of the degree, and subsequently got a job in the aforementioned practice. So always be thinking about sort of making connections with everyone you come into contact with. Now, work experience, we know, especially over the last 2 years, has been incredibly tough. They say the hardest part of it is getting into the experience. So I would always suggest, yes, it's very good and easy to send off letters, or emails probably being more common now, but I would say follow that up with a telephone call, and if it's safe to do so, go in person and go ready to help out, so that you can show both willing and that you are proactive, because it's very easy to ignore an email, and when it's an email, you don't know who ilovehorses@gmail.com is, there might be a certain element of risk felt by the practice who you're approaching. Whereas over the telephone call, if they can hear that you're a competent young professional wanting just to help out and gain experience, they're probably a lot more likely to say, oh yeah, actually come in. Or if you go in person and you're ready to work and say, you know, obviously give them your CV and say you're really passionate, and then say, you know, can I help? It might be, you know, even more of the mundane task. So could I clean any kennels? I'm ready and can spare the next half hour. And then it's your opportunity to get your foot in the door and be extremely enthusiastic, because that might be your opportunity to impress. And any experience that you get, always ask questions, ask for more. And I mean that in a constructive way. So, you know, I've really enjoyed that. Is there any chance I can come back next Sunday and help out with the cleaning, for example? If you don't ask, you won't know whether you've missed an opportunity, as long as it's done respectfully. You know, the answer might be no, in which case say, oh, is there any other dates? Always be innovative to try and provide solutions to allow you to get into any particular experience. So get your foot in the door, and then proactivity, enthusiasm, passion, and ask questions. Now, most vet schools have either a work experience form, applicant supplementary form, or words to that effect. Please, please, please do make sure that you check and diarise any requirements such as this, which veterinary schools ask for. And the reason I say that is because we are all slightly different, and as such have different selection methods. So there'll be different dates, different mediums for you to submit such things. But if it's in your diary and you're well organized, then you can make sure you can spend as much time on all areas of the application to ensure that you're a successful candidate. And earlier I mentioned where students tend to slip up. At the RVC, it's not spending as much time on, say, the applicant supplementary form as other areas of their application. This is just as important as the UCAS form for us. So make sure you take the time to know when it launches. Ours typically launches in September, so that as soon as that opens, you can start constructing your answers to make sure they're the best that they can be. I would say in anyone's work experience or supplementary forms, read the question and answer the question which they are asking, not the question that you would like to answer. And I know that sounds strange, but every year we ask a number of questions, and sometimes you're sort of scratching your head and going, it's great to hear more about this student, but they're not actually answering what we have asked of them. And obviously, if you're not answering the question we're asking, then we can't score you. And so it's less likely that you're going to be one of those students who are called through to interview. So preparation and organisation are probably the rules of the day. In terms of what I think all vet schools want, and a lot of these words we've said already to this juncture, we want you to have insight and understanding to the veterinary profession, because we don't want you committing to a veterinary degree program and then realising partway down that journey that it's not the right fit for yourself. So at applicant stage, we want you to have as much insight and understanding as you can do. Because of the intense nature of the program, we want you to be extremely passionate and dedicated, so motivated to gain both experiences and sort of seek opportunities for yourself. And then in terms of the skills and characteristics, it's going to be all the common skills and characteristics that any university would want, and indeed any skills that you would want in a veterinarian. So not an exhaustive list, but and not limited to, but you could say, you know, teamwork as well as working independently, problem solver, organized, dedicated, all of these things. If you want it in a vet, we want it in you as an applicant. I'm not saying we expect you to be the same in terms of standards, but we are wanting to see the buds of those particular skills and characteristics. So in terms of veterinary schools, most veterinary schools interview. I think Bristol was the only one the last time that I checked, but please do speak with them to see if that has changed. They don't interview, but the rest of the schools do. We do what's called multi-mini station interviews, but some schools do a panel-based interview. Panel-based interview most closely linked to, I guess, X Factor, where there's a table and people sort of asking questions of you and you answering. Whereas multi-mini station interview, a student will come in and move between the various stations. So spending with us, it's 5 minutes at each station. And then once they've spent 5 minutes with us, they will move on to the next station. So it gives us the opportunity to spend typically a little bit more time with all applicants, and it takes away the potential for any subconscious bias. So it's a slightly fairer way to assess students, we believe. Typically, we also have a group task because, as I alluded to there, veterinarians and indeed veterinary degrees, you need to work as part of a team, because veterinary medicine isn't just about the vet going and saving all the animals. It's very much a team ethos, vets collaborating with one another, sharing experiences, obviously leaning on the veterinary nursing team and other veterinary professionals, animal nursing assistants, so on and so forth. So it's very much a team ethos, as well as wanting the ability for one to work independently. So one analogy I wanted to sort of close with regards to the application side of things is it's a bit like the hurdles at the Olympics, whereby you need to clear all of those hurdles. So make sure you do your research, make sure you are meeting the typical entry requirements printed in literature and on the prospectuses. Then make sure you get the work experience which a particular school or schools are asking for. Make sure you spend time and submit the work experience form. If you get through to interview, that's the last hurdle before starting your journey of veterinary training. However, it's not necessarily a race. We want you to work and collaborate with your peers, because say if you lean on one another, you're going to both benefit. Please don't think that you're competing against your friend who's also in the same biology and chemistry class. You join forces and share your work experience. So they might have better contacts for production animals, and you might have better contacts for companion animals. So if you team up, you'll both get more experience than if you stay in a silo. Now, with regards to employability, I mentioned in one of the first few slides that currently there's a need for more veterinary surgeons. There are more jobs than we as veterinary schools are graduating veterinarians. Another bonus for you if you pursue a career in veterinary medicine is it can be a global qualification. So the RCVS is the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, which is the UK governing body. So if you graduate from an RCVS accredited school, so a UK-based school, you can work anywhere in Europe. You can also, anywhere in the UK, anywhere in Europe, including the Republic of Ireland and also in Australasia. So South Africa, Australia, as well as New Zealand. So you really can travel, so opening up the job market even further. Now, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Bristol, and ourselves are also accredited by the AVMA, which is the North American governing body. So still further opening up that pool of opportunities. And this is something that some of our students have been putting together. And I know there's still a few pins on the map that needs to go in terms of where our graduating class are going, went on to work. And this is just a few people who've submitted. So we'll be hopefully filling up the map even more as we move forward. So in terms of employability, as I say, there is a large number of jobs out there. We typically have around a 90% of our graduates or more will be in work or further study within 6 months of graduating. The world very much is your oyster. The school that you attend might well mean that that's pretty much anywhere in the world, or maybe not North America. But yeah, it's a very well regarded both profession and standing through the RCVS accreditation. If you enjoyed this and interested in the RVC, please go to our website and request a prospectus. All vet schools will sort of send out literature if you do want to find out more about us. I hope you enjoyed that. If you do have any questions, please do get in touch with us, and please do ask other veterinary schools as well, because we are all slightly different. Good luck in your application.